Visit TomHartman.com.
Do you have an old car sitting around your house? Maybe you're even paying insurance on it. Well, if you don't need that car anymore, donate it, running or not, to the United Breast Cancer Foundation. They will even come and pick it up for free and give you a receipt for a tax donation. Breast cancer screening could save the life of someone you love. And right now, they need your help. They want to save more lives through early detection by offering women free or low-cost breast screening exams. And that's what your old car helps to pay for. So get your phone out and call right now to donate your car to the United Breast Cancer Foundation. Remember, they will come pick it up for free and give you a tax donation receipt. Call right now at 800-280-9435. 800-280-9435.
Happy New Year, sweetie.
800-280-9435. 800-280-9435.
Hi, friends. Tom.
If you want to stay up to date on politics in the Midwest, check out Heartland Signal, WCPT 820's multimedia newsroom. Our team is dedicated to bringing you news on events like state legislative sessions and the upcoming mayoral election in Chicago. For new video content, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at Heartland Signal. Or you can read our digital news updates on our website, heartlandsignal.com, where facts matter.
A veteran's hope. Where are you hiding? I search for you in the seconds, the minutes of each and every day. Hear me as I call out to you. Welcome me home. Alone we stood, divided we fell. No longer. Now we choose to make the connection. Our new mission lies within. Visit maketheconnection.net to learn more.
Information is power.
Stay informed to know what's going on.
Staying informed gives me the power of knowledge.
I wake up.
Need to know what happened.
I turn on the radio.
Because information is power.
WCPT 820, where facts matter.
This is AP News. I'm Rita Foley. More than 200 million Americans are in the path of some dangerous weather. Snow, freezing, rain, brutal cold. The AP's Mike Hempen is tracking this.
Across much of the eastern U.S. are bracing for one of the most treacherous Christmas weekends in decades. Forecasters are warning of a bomb cyclone developing near the Great Lakes, which meteorologists say will increase winds and create blizzard conditions. AAA spokeswoman Aixa Diaz says despite the gloomy forecast, many people will be reluctant to change their plans.
People are still going to go on their trips. They may have to just adjust the timing.
But Diaz says traveling on Friday is not a good idea. I'm Mike Hempen.
The House January 6th Committee's final report says the central cause of the attack on the U.S. Capitol that day was one man, Donald Trump. The AP's Lisa Dwyer.
The House January 6th Committee's final report asserts that Donald Trump criminally engaged in a multi-part conspiracy to overturn the lawful results of the 2020 presidential election and failed to act to stop his supporters from attacking the Capitol. There were more than 1,000 witnesses, ranging from many of Trump's closest aides to law enforcement to some of the rioters themselves.
In a post on his social media site, former President Trump called the report highly partisan. We'll overcome everything. That's what Ukraine's President Zelensky says this morning. He's back from his quick trip to Washington. He says he's in his office in Kyiv. His forces, he says, are working toward victory. Russia, though, has been launching new strikes across Ukraine. Sam Bankman-Fried, the FTX founder, left Manhattan federal court after his parents signed a $250 million personal recognizance bond. He's accused of cheating investors. This is AP News. Now to a Staten Island, New York ferry fire. The AP's Donna Warder.
There were a few minor injuries after a Staten Island ferry vessel caught fire Thursday. The New York City Fire Department says 868 passengers and 16 crew were on the ferry when fire broke out in the ship's engine room shortly after 5 p.m. Thursday in Upper New York Bay. In a news conference carried by WABC TV, Deputy Assistant Fire Chief Frank Lieb says the ferry crew acted quickly by using CO2 to remove any oxygen from the fire.
Upon arrival, our main objective was to secure the vessel and to start getting the victims, the passengers offloaded onto other boats.
Lieb says there were 5 minor injuries, 3 of those people needing hospital treatment. I'm Donna Water.
Okay, more Americans
Paul, I'm
filed for
up on
unemployment last
Facebook,
week.
just
The
so that
labor
you know.
market is still showing.
Okay.
Though.
And so you can get the pastor up, please.
This is 8:20 a.m.
So we can test the sound.
WCPT Willow Springs.
Thank
and
you.
streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
Here's the latest Chicago weather update. A blizzard warning continues through early on Saturday. Mainly cloudy today with areas of snow and blowing and drifting snow. A low of 2 below. Strong west winds will make it feel like 39 below. Tonight, areas of blowing and drifting snow could see an additional dusting to an inch of snow possible, or reach a low of 2 below with strong northwest winds. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Laura Lockwood. Right now it's 9 below.
This is a WCPT 820 Heartland Signal News.
Pastor Williams is on the line.
Okay, Pastor Williams, how you doing?
Third of 5 scheduled hearings.
I'm well. How are you? I am cold, but doing well.
Outlaw the sale of assault weapons.
I know it's cold.
Most
It's cold.
Illinois residents
Oh,
under
honey,
21
it's cold.
legally
But take
buy
care of
guns.
yourself, okay?
After lobbyist Todd Vandermeyer
Absolutely. And try to stay in if you
are not here
can.
to negotiate and promised a legal challenge if the bill or anything
Try to
remotely
stay
like
in
it
if you
passes.
can. Okay,
Angel
can you,
Novales from the
Paul,
Chicago
when
Police
you're
Department
up, just let
said
me
he
know
worries
so
that
you
unless
can let me
the
know
assault
if you can-
weapons ban
you
is
can test the
implemented,
pastors.
police officers will be outweaponed.
In the very streets that
Sound.
they're trying to protect. A rifle
Need to make
I'm
sure you
not
can hear
seeing
her.
the stream.
Can you hear her?
With a path to destruction of 2
You don't
miles.
see
I
the
can hear her
stream?
fine on the board, but I can't find the stream.
Or person
Okay.
in our communities.
It should be up.
Banning assault weapons is a must.
For WCPT 820 and Heartland Signal, I'm Andy Miles.
Well, I'm up.
I'm
So
Dr.
wish
Anthony
you-
Lajewicz, and this,
All right, I got you now.
Okay, thank you.
in the Great Lakes region,
All right,
a
Pastor, would
forecast
you
of
please
lake-effect
speak?
Snow can mean several
Paul,
feet.
can you
When
handle
sure,
that,
when
please?
cold air blows over warm open lake water, water
ESG
evaporates.
HIJKLMNOP URSUV
W, X, and Y, and Z.
All right, she sounds good.
Thank you.
Because you have air that is cold enough to snow, and you still have the water being warm. Once the water freezes over, then the evaporation
How much time do we have,
is
Paul?
largely reduced, and then there's
3.5 minutes.
Thank you. Just let me know when we're
The
a minute
University of
away,
Michigan says
please.
that as the climate changes,
Okay.
Thank you.
it gets warmer and staying ice-free for longer. That can lead to more evaporation and sometimes heavier lake effect snow.
individual snowstorms can actually be larger in terms of the amount of snow in an individual storm.
But before snow lovers rejoice, a caveat. As the climate warms, more and more of that lake effect precipitation is falling as rain instead. Eventually, winter activities, from snowmobiling to snowball fights, could be harder to experience. Climate Connections is produced by the Yale Center for Environmental Communication. To hear more stories like this, visit climateconnections.org.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. If you owe over $10,000 in bad taxes or have unfiled tax returns, U.S. Tax Shield can help you take back control. The IRS can seize your bank, your paycheck, close your business, and charges. Our team of tax attorneys can stop collections and get you protected. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the BDB, so call 800-466-9625. U.S. Tax Shield, 800-466-9625.
Hey, looking for a winning team on a winning station? You found it right here on WCPT 820 AM. Join the marvelous one, Dan Marver, the fallacious one, Paul Shivari, Sports on the Couches of Mike Mercado, and yours truly, Devin Tingle, every Sunday at 9 p.m. for the Sports Cubicle, where the inmates run the asylum, and the boss, well, they yell at us on Monday morning because we're working overtime. Looking for your late night dose of sports talk radio? We're here. Join us on the Sports Cubicle, Sunday nights at 9 p.m.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered to truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Tom Hartman.
If we burn all the known reserves of fossil fuel in the world, we will push beyond 4 degrees Celsius. That will be beyond catastrophic. So,
1 minute.
Okay, thank you.
Get carbon out of the atmosphere.
Let's have a great show. Let the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight.
We should be able to figure out how to get carbon out of the
atmosphere.
atmosphere.
Oh Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Yes, yes,
11
yes.
a.m. to 2 p.m. on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
I wanted to know why some people who get COVID-19 get it so bad. I found out it may be because they have a high risk factor, such as heart disease, diabetes, being overweight, smoking, and asthma. Even if symptoms feel mild, these factors can increase your risk of COVID-19 turning severe. So if you're at high risk and test positive, there are things you can do, like asking your healthcare provider if an authorized oral treatment is right for you. Learn about an option at treatcovid19.com. This message is sponsored by Pfizer.
Chicago's progressive talks matter.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Just a couple of days before Christmas, the day before Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas, everybody. And to all of our brothers and sisters of other faiths, may the spirit of Christmas be with you at this time. Getting some feedback here, but work on that. I'm so glad to be with you here on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, as we are in the midst of this celebration of light. Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah to our Jewish brothers and sisters. Happy Hanukkah to you. Blessings to you. Just another sign of God's miracles. Yes, yes, yes. Letting that candle burn. You had one day and it burned for 8, just as long as you needed it. Oh, he's an on-time God. Yes, he is. And we thank God for Jesus and his mission. Yes, I am the Christmas girl, everybody. I am the Christmas girl. And you know what? As I was thinking, our religious celebration should offend no one. It should offend no one. In fact, we should embrace all of these traditions, no matter which one to which we adhere. So let's really kind of grow with that, everybody. And so I'm sending all of my love to my morning stars today. We have Linear Bob. Yvonne, I want you to call in today, too. We're going to reach out to you. I just found your number. I want to find out from you, what is the big story of 2022 and what do you foresee for 2023? Was it Georgia? Was it in findings? I mean, in my we just have only heaven knows what else will happen. But what was the big story for you this year? Was it COVID? People saying that it's over, but it's not. What is the big story? So much happened. I've got whiplash, and I want to hear from you. I want you to tell me what you think the big story was in 2022. Voter suppression. Georgia was on everyone's minds. The midterms. The Republicans didn't take the Democrats out. There was a nail biter in Georgia until we got Raphael Warnock, and then Kirsten Sinema said, "Oh no, I'm not a Democrat anymore. I'm an independent." Oh, what a year! What a year! Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel or on my Facebook page, Santita Jackson and Friends. But please, everybody, get on over to that channel, to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, and let's get on with some of these headlines. It is freezing. It is freezing everywhere. In Denver, they had a 37-degree drop in an hour. 40-degree drop, too. I mean, it's just It's freezing everywhere. Everybody, please be careful. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 2 degrees. It feels like it's 11 below right now. And then it will feel like it's 7 below. It's going to warm up to that, and it will be cloudy today. In Minneapolis, St. Paul, 1 degree will be your high. Bless your hearts. 11 degrees below zero. That's what it feels like right now. It's cloudy. Everybody get to warming stations no matter where you are. No one should be on the streets. And if you do not have heat in your home, don't open that oven. Go to a warming station. Go to a neighbor's place. Please, everybody. In the NFL, the Jaguars 19, the Jets 3 for Thursday night football. And the Bulls will be playing the Knicks tonight, and the Timberwolves will be playing the Celtics. Even though it's cold, basketball and the sports will go on. The Blue Jackets will be in Chicago, and the Sharks were triumphant over the Wild yesterday, 5-2. 5-2. Everyone's talking about the weather. Please be careful. And if you have to get in your car, remember this. With this weather, within 10 minutes, you can get frostbite. Any exposed skin, within 10 minutes, you can get frostbite. So in your car, you need to be prepared just in case the car stops. You need to have blankets. You need to have these warming, oh goodness, they are these packets that once you crack them open and you rub them together, they can keep you heated. Please, but if you can, stay inside today, stay indoors, or go someplace very quickly so that you can get indoors, everybody. The massive winter storm battering the U.S. is hitting major cities at a time when millions of travelers are trying to get to be with their families and loved ones, everyone. Nearly 3,000 flights into or out of the U.S. have already been canceled today, according to flight tracking site FlightAware. Cancellations are highest at New York's LaGuardia, Detroit, Seattle, Chicago, Denver, Boston. Everybody, please be careful. The House Select Committee investigating the January 6, 2021 insurrection recommends barring former President Donald Trump from holding office again. What do you think about that, everybody? Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. That recommendation is among the conclusions in the bipartisan panel's final report. It was released late Thursday. It's more than 800 pages. The summary is more than 100 pages, but it's a lot. It's a lot. Do you think that he should be barred from running for office ever again? Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday labeled fighting in Ukraine a war. That's the first known time that he has said that in public, deviating from his carefully crafted description of Moscow's invasion as a special military operation. Migrants at the U.S.-Mexico border are struggling to find shelter while enduring freezing temperatures. In El Paso, Texas, in the midst of a declared state of emergency, over thousands of migrants are living in unsafe conditions. If they don't have the proper paperwork, they cannot be taken into shelters. I hope that these people will have mercy in this time, in this holy season when Jesus was shut out of the inn, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, and have mercy on our human brothers and sisters and bring them in. Bring them in. Bring them in. No one should be out and freeze to death. I don't care what your nationality is, because God doesn't even see that. We have on January 26th, WCPT is going to have a mayoral forum. All of the top candidates will be there. And that's what we're trying to get everybody there. Everybody needs to be there, and you need to be there too, everybody. Joan Esposito, Patty Vasquez, and I will moderate this mayoral candidates forum. You will hear directly from the candidates about the direction they want to lead the city in for the next 4 years. Can you believe it's been 4 years since Lori Lightfoot was elected? Well, the candidates have filed. And Chicagoans, well, we're going into another season. We thought midterms 2022 was something. You got to hang around for a Chicago mayoral election. Everybody, stay tuned to WCPT so you can find out more about it. In the meantime, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, such a joy to have you, my beloved sister friend. I want to say this publicly because, I've said it to you privately. I love you, and I thank God for you. I appreciate and value our friendship and our sisterhood. God bless you, my dear sister.
Oh, the same holds true for me to you. I adore you. I thank you so much for allowing me to share in this platform. You could have anybody on this platform at any given time, and I don't take it lightly that you choose me, and I love you too.
My dear sister, as it's cold, as we're praying for the migrants who are seeking asylum, who are seeking shelter in the United States, please don't let them stay on the streets. For our Texas listeners, just bring them in. Bring them in. Bring them in. That is one of the lessons of our season. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, when you think that the King of Kings was put in the barn where, as a friend of mine put it, he said, where the cow dung lived. Oof.
That's right.
That's it.
Right.
That's it. So let's think about that, everybody. Remember during this season, but I dare not speak when I've got such an anointed person in the house. What's the good news today?
The good news today, there's a whole debate. I don't know if everyone's been seeing it on social media or whether or not you all have engaged in this debate yourselves. For whatever reason, this year, more than any other year, probably likely because Christmas falls on a Sunday, there's great debate as to whether service should be inside, if people should actually come to the building, or if people should work virtually. There are ministries and churches who have opted to only do virtual service so that people might enjoy their time at home on Christmas Day. And it's been up for big debate, and this is weird because probably spurred by COVID-19 and our quarantine in the past. But this is strange because Christmas has always fallen on a Sunday, at least every 7 years. We know that to be true. But this year, more than every other year, it's up for debate. It's being tossed around back and forth. People are actually getting into heated arguments about whether or not people should come into the church. Now, as a pastor, I will say this. Christmas Day is one of my favorite days. Certainly because it's Christmas Day. Yes, because of the birth of Jesus. Yes, to open presents. But can I be honest, Santita, and tell you why in recent years Christmas Day has become my favorite day?
Please.
Because it is my only true rest day. It is the one day a year where I'm about 95% guaranteed not to be disturbed. And so for the past few Christmases, much to my family's dismay, I choose to stay in the house. Last year, I just ordered Chinese, sat in a onesie, and enjoyed myself. It was my only day off. Even more than Thanksgiving. Christmas Day
In the onesie?
is my one day off.
In the onesie. Girl, I got a couple of those too.
In the onesie, yes, with the fuzzy feet and the whole bit. But I say that to say that I want to encourage people, whether you go into a church building or whether you choose to worship virtually, Christmas Day is about so much more than that. Here's what I want for everyone. Take the day off. No matter what you're doing, no matter what you're engaged in, I want you to enjoy Christmas Day as a gift to you to take the day. I want you to refuse to be fearful and fretful this Christmas. I want you to take the day off from that. We know that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. Christmas should be running over with hope and joy and peace and all good things because of our Savior, because of our deliverer, because of our healer, because of our strong tower. If there was any reason to take a break, that's it, because Jesus is still in control, even on Jesus' celebrated birthday. But out here, we're always pushing the panic button. Everywhere you look, there's a spirit of fear on us. Everywhere you look, as you just announced, there's war, there's famine, there's people homeless. There's so many things to worry about that consume us on a regular basis, but I'm inviting you to take the day. We're worried about our jobs, our businesses, our families. Many of us are white-knuckling our hands in fear, wondering what we're going to do about our next situation. But what if you were just to hit pause for 24 hours and enjoy Christmas Day in the spirit in which it was given? Glad tidings, joy, peace, light, and love. So I want to say, if you're pushing the panic button, here's your answer. Have faith in God, refuse to fear, and on Christmas Day, do your best to enjoy the festivities. Because when we fear gives place to the enemy, that keeps us in torment. We're constantly wrestling with our thoughts. But if there's one day that you should be able to rest in the joy and love and peace and comfort of Christ, it should be on Christ's birthday. But I'm inviting you, if your boss didn't say it, if your family doesn't say it, your loved ones don't say it, your partner doesn't say it, go ahead and take the day. That's the good news.
That is the good news. That is, my father works all the way through the holiday, but because of the weather, every year we start off going to the Cook County Jail and to the people who've been forgotten, and we have a Christmas service, and then you come home and dinner's almost ready, and then we just have a good time, sit up and talk about we even have a trial. Pastor Williams, where we enact the big stories of the year. So it's always been a lot of fun. But I guess, we try to focus on the reason for the season. For the season. And, I think that part of that is rest. Because I think that people, you're taxed trying to get gifts and all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And and now when people have no money, how about that? It just makes it even worse. Right. You're right. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes we have because Americans work so hard all the time. We don't have the paid leave. That's what happened with our rail workers. They still don't have paid leave. Everybody, they still don't have it. Mm-hmm. People upon whom we depend so greatly, they still don't have paid leave. And then, of course, those of us whose forebears came out of slavery, it was, rest was shunned. You couldn't have it. And I think that's something that we still carry with us. Don't you think?
Agreed. I absolutely agree with that. I think it's something that we carry with us. I also think it's also very Western. It's something that we carry with us and have inherited by virtue of being Americans. One of the things that I love about traveling to Africa and Morocco, my second home, is time almost slows down. It's the same time. The hours are the same, but the pace is totally different. And what I always tell people about Africa and why I like to go there is, you don't tell Africa what to do. It tells you what to do. Including, as we say in Swahili, pole, slowly. The pace is different. The sad part about it and the indictment against us is it takes at least a week to match that pace before you can even begin to enjoy yourself, because we're always in a one speed go. Mm-hmm.
Well, why do you think that is? Because you have the siestas. People of color really, we say stop. Mm-hmm. And, go, there's certain things that you didn't do under a full moon. There's certain things that you do at a certain time of year. We really are adherents to that. Please talk to me about that. Why does everything slow down in the so-called global South?
I think it slows down because we're more intentional. And here's really why I think we slow down. We're intentional about certain rituals, about certain traditions that cause us to slow down. One thing I love about the South and about Africa, the way I think they mirror each other, is the importance of meals. Meals. Yeah. As a New Yorker, we are constantly eating on the go, which is why so much of our food is portable. A sandwich, a bagel, a pizza. The best foods here in New York are ones you can carry in your hand and keep moving. And not so in the South and not so in Africa. Meals mean something. Meals are monumental. Meals communicate love. They communicate community and family. When you go down South, even the wonderful servers are, okay, baby, what would you like?
That's right.
to want to sit down and slow down and enjoy. Come to the table, your food is going to get cold. And when we adopt those attitudes about coming to a table in communion, it helps us to slow down, which is what I love about our culture, that meals matter. Meals are a point of community and camaraderie and love and coming together. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I adopted, this is a rule and a boundary that I've placed on myself, is I don't work and eat. And I put that in place when I began pastoring, because for 14 years in corporate America, I was always eating on the go. I was eating in my desk. If I was working on a project, I would eat while I worked. And when I became a pastor and gave up the corporate life, I sat down one day and I realized I was working and eating. And I said to myself, you don't have to do that anymore. And it became a boundary for me, a rule, a hard and fast rule for me, which sometimes is difficult to keep. But I don't work and eat, because I thought to myself, what am I saying to my body when I can't even give it the honor of enjoying and digesting food for an hour a day? Is my body, the body that takes care of me, the body that works for me, the body that pushes so hard for me in pursuit of my goals, can I not just honor it for 1 hour? I feel like Jesus, can you just wait for me for 1 hour? Can I just not honor it for 1 hour by enjoying and digesting my food properly? And so, yeah.
No, I appreciate that, because we need that. We need that.
Yeah.
We need that.
It's a way to slow down and check in.
And maybe to solve some of our digestive problems. Seriously.
And I think it would.
Yeah.
I think it would. I think it would.
We're not living in the natural, as my great grandmother Tibby used to say.
And we're not living in the natural.
Yeah, excuse me. We're not living the way we're supposed to live, eating the way we're supposed to eat. So I love you. I'm gonna go get some water.
I love you.
Call me, everybody. The big story of 2022. What is it? Call me. Bye-bye.
Everyone, everywhere, take the time to say a prayer.
Oh, excuse me, girl. I love you. But I've got to go take some of these. Oh, yeah, I've just got to take one of these tests this morning. And I've been drinking this solution, and it's driving me crazy. But I've got like a liter to go, like a 3/4 of a liter to go, and it's like it doesn't taste great. It's like,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, girl, please just look. At least I have health care. How about that?
That's right.
That's
right.
But I'm gonna run over here and grab it so I can.
Okay.
I forgot to bring it over. And I'll speak with you over the holidays. Because I do want to get caught up.
Okay, absolutely.
Because I'm off next week, everybody.
Good for you.
Next week. I will be working, but I won't be doing this. So I love you.
Love you too. Have a great one.
You too, sweetie. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Oh. Yeah.
Attorneys Jones and Connolly on the line.
Ooh, wow. Ooh. Taking these tests is tough. Hello.
Good morning, Santita. This is Erin.
Hi, Erin. How are you?
I'm cold but good. How are you?
Cold, freezing. Yeah, I keep it a little colder over here for the equipment. Although they tell me it's not necessary.
Mr.
I've
McKee
run
on the line.
I'm sorry. Who's there?
Dwight McKee.
Okay. Hello. Let me know whenever. Hi, Dwight. How you doing?
Fine. How you doing, Sandy?
Oh, good. I thought I was going to have you on at 7. I mistakenly put you in the run sheet a little early. Would you like to come back at 7?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, great. And Erin is here.
Hey, Erin, how are you?
Buongiorno. Happy holidays, Mr. McKee.
Thank you, Gia.
Good morning, everyone. Happy holidays.
Hi,
Happy
Daryl.
holidays. Hi, Daryl.
Good morning.
We get the crew together. Hello. For the last show of the
Attorney
year.
Sonata's on the line.
Morning, good morning.
Who do we have on the line? Anastasi Sanat.
Anastasi Sanat. Hello, Sora. How are
Hey,
you?
Sora. Ooh, whoop to you.
All right. Happy holidays.
Happy holiday. Well, Merry Christmas. I'm very intentional.
Right. Let's just be real.
Well,
Right.
no, I'm just, the thing is, this holiday should not offend anyone, as other holidays do not offend me. And I think we've got to mature and grow up in our politics and grow up and embrace each other. Oh, I might offend you. No one of goodwill should be offended by anyone's holiday, unless
Attorney
it's
Hoffler
satanic.
is on the line.
If it's Luciferian, well, okay. That's offensive to me.
But just in case I don't get to speak to you for Kwanzaa or for the Haitian New Year. Happy holidays covers it all.
And those are cultural holidays, and I appreciate that, and and that's important. But just as a Christian, Easter and Christmas, you know what I mean. Those are, I make the distinction. I don't conflate all these holidays. And maybe you have my mother to blame for that. She would not allow us to do that. She said, "No, there's no X in Christmas."
Is that right?
Oh, no, she was like, "There's no X."
This week has been Hanukkah, so happy Hanukkah to those listeners.
And I do that. But Yom Kippur is their exalted holiday
Coming
too.
back in 5 seconds.
So you understand that.
Yeah, but
no. But I celebrate them all. But I disaggregate religion from culture.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
It's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio. The voice of progressive Minnesota. It is cold in Chicago. It is cold in Minneapolis, St. Paul. It is cold in Atlanta. It's cold in Denver. They had a 40-degree drop in an hour. Huh? What? What is going on here? It's cold everywhere, throughout most of America, and people are stuck at airports, and people are having to go to work. And if you have to go to work, make sure you have blankets in your car, make sure you have something to drink, make sure you have no exposed skin, because in this weather, in this cold, you could get frostbite within 10 minutes and you don't recover from that. So yeah. So please, everybody, please be careful. Please be careful and take care of yourselves. Well, you know what? This is the last show of the year for the Santita Jackson Show. And I just want to hear from everybody. 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. I want to know what you think the biggest story of the year is. I mean, I have whiplash, everybody. There have been so many. I mean, let's look at 2022, but let's see what might happen in 2023. You've got January 6th, you've got the midterms, you've got Georgia, voter suppression, you've got former President Trump, you've got the January 6th conclusions. They're saying, hey, he should never be allowed to run for office again. What do you think about that? What about President Biden? What about his performance? Even though he's had a lot of victories, he's still a little bit underwater. What's the deal? His numbers have been rising, though. What about inflation? What about the abortion decision? What about Ukraine? We're giving them $45 billion more dollars, everybody. Ooh. What about Russia? The United States, NATO? What is in your town? What is the big story? All this red Republican wave that was supposed to happen, it didn't manifest. But President Trump still won about 90% of the people who he ran for office, even though the corporate media is giving you the opposite message. The fact is, if you go to Ballotpedia, they have broken it down. So there's a lot going on, but I want to know what you think the big story of 2022 or the big stories of 2022 are. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. And, of course, Jarvis, I want you to know my health is great. I'm doing something that I think everybody ought to do. if you're blessed to do so. I'm taking tests to find out just how I'm doing. And there's some other things I've got to tweak. I had a life-saving surgery in 2004, and it's something that requires me to be quite vigilant about my health. And so, many of you have noticed that I've lost weight this year. I've lost about 40 pounds, most of which I had intended to lose. The last 15 kind of took me by surprise. But my health, all the indications are that my health is great, and I'm working on it. And so I want you to work on it too, okay? But Jarvis, thank you for sending your concern and love my way. We've got a tremendous panel talking to us. And Paul, I just need to make sure, do we have Attorney Hoffler on with us yet?
Yes.
Okay. So we've got the whole crew who are with us all the time. Of course, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, Legal Q&A with C.K., Court TV legal analyst, chair of Rainbow Push, former president of the National Bar Association, host of her own show on WAOK, the iconic radio station in Atlanta. We've got Attorney Darrell Jones, host of his own show on WOL in Washington, D.C. Brilliant civil rights and voting rights lawyer, chair of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Brilliant political organizer, political analyst, Attorney Erin Connolly, my beloved sister, and of course, my beloved sister, Attorney Anastasia Sanat. I don't think there's a greater advocate for the Haitian community, the Haitian American community, and the Haitian diaspora that exists. She is the president of the Haitian American Lawyers Association of Illinois. Brilliant lawyer, brilliant, and an expert in immigration. Maybe that's one of the big stories too. We're dealing with it right now. There's no room at the inn for the migrants who do not have proper paperwork down in Texas while they have record cold. Have a heart. Let the people in, everybody. Have a heart. Of course, Dwight McKee, brilliant social scientist. I think I've got everybody covered here. Do I not? Yeah, I think I do. So let's go on and get things started. Let me start with you, Attorney C.K. Hoffler. Everybody, let's try to keep it a little brief. Well, you know what? Real quick. It's the People's Show, C.K. Let me bring on Reverend Wright, who's calling us from Rocky Mountain, North Carolina, before I get to you down there in cold old Atlanta. You got to put on one of those fur coats today, girl. Oh, gosh. Like, she was wearing a fur coat for the gods, everybody, and she needed it when she was here a couple of days ago. But it was fabulous. Oh. Reverend, how are you this morning?
I am blessed. How you doing, Ms. Jackson?
Oh, I am blessed by the best, and so blessed to be speaking with you. Yeah. What's on your mind today? What do you think is like the big story?
When I heard you coughing on the air, I did a prayer for you live. You just didn't hear it, but just know if your throat starts feeling better, the Lord is already making contact with you.
And I want you to know it worked. Listen to me. Come on now.
You cleared right up.
Come on.
Amen. Now,
amen.
A subject ahead I wanted to bring about was North Korea. They fired off the ballistic missile this morning in response to Ukraine being in our country and doing what they need to do, ask for money to keep their war going on. I'm glad, and being in the military now, I'm Air Force, Army, and Air Force. I'm Tuskegee Airman, so the war and things like that I watch a lot. The Bible talks about wars and rumors of wars is in the Word, so it's right on course. But this is one to watch. It's like the cold hawk you have in your city today and around the country, cold air, something to watch. But this is different because it's on the verge, and we could be on the verge soon or later of some type of attack. So it's just a word of talk, just talking about it. But things about it is it's real. And we just can't sit back and not be advised or watch and just be wary of it. And Lord has it in our hands, in his hands. And that's just be something to be prayerful about also within our prayer list. That's all I wanted to mention. Well,
no, please. Nuclear war is something that we're talking about. We haven't talked about it in a couple of generations, not in a real way, but it's right here. It's right here. But remember, with North Korea, we have an armistice treaty with North and South Korea. We don't have a peace treaty. We're still technically at war with North Korea, and I think we have to remember that. I remember getting into it with Lou Dobbs, God bless him, on Fox News. He said, "No, we're at peace." I said, "No, we're not. We're at armistice." Just let's look it up.
Right. But the best gift out of Chicago was sending Dennis Rodman over to North Korea. But the ball game he played was not for war. It was symbolic to the leader wanting to sport the game, and he liked him as a favorite. Understood. But it would have been a good negotiating tool had while he was there. This is my thinking. And I met Dennis Rodman at the airport flying out of town, out of good Chicago. And he and I talked a minute about a lot of things. And he talked real perfectly clear. I mean, he was fine with me. I didn't have no negative spirits or any of that connotation or any of that. And I'm very comfortable with that. But see, one thing I learned about folks who we send as diplomats to the country of that country, borderline or South Korea versus North Korea, we have to be cautious. They have to be about our father's business when they go. And that's the big thing.
Well, we
and
should do that. I think we should have that requirement of all our diplomats, and they are not that.
Exactly.
We're gonna have to do some thinking, and I think that's the inflection point, Pastor Wright, that we are in right now, just really figuring out exactly who we are, and that's reflective of the year. We've had so much that has happened. I thank you for calling us from Rocky Mountain, North Carolina, sending you much love. I'm loving you. Thank you for your support.
Enjoy your vacation, ma'am. It's well needed, as us broadcasters understand that.
Thank you.
Calm down.
Thank you so much. I love you. Attorney C.K. Hoffler, everybody, I need all my panel. Give me about 2 minutes of what you think the big story or stories, the story is or the stories are, and why. Attorney C.K. Hoffler.
Good morning, Santita and everyone. The continuous mess in Georgia elections in 2022. That's the big story for me, starting from the jubilation that we felt when Senator Raphael Warnock, won. We were all so excited. And then before we could even breathe, and I believe it's all connected to Georgia, we had the events of January 6th. But as you know, there was only one thing really this year that caused me to have heart palpitations, hold my pearls, even though I didn't have it around my neck, and to really start sweating bullets. Sweating bullets, Santita, bullets sweating all off my head in Georgia. And that was really the Senate race between Senator Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker. Because I was, sometimes we can be dramatic, falling out on my chair, on my couch, everything, just falling out at the notion, especially in the last hours of the election, that Herschel Walker almost won, almost became the next U.S. Senator from the state of Georgia. In and of itself, that was just incredibly difficult. And I think that was just historic and a momentous occasion that it almost happened, because it's not the fact that he almost won, given who he is and all the reasons why he shouldn't have won. It's the fact that it happened and what it says about this country. That's why, for me, at the top of the list of crazy, hot mess, important, distinctive, even know what to say about events in 2022 is the elections in Georgia.
Anastasia Knott, Attorney Sanat, what do you think? What was the big story for you, or the big stories? 2 minutes.
Well, I would agree that the invasion from Russia into Ukraine is a large story, and the Reverend mentioned that. I also would think that the death of Queen Elizabeth was a monumental international incident, because it's going to impact multiple Commonwealth countries, which, of course, as we've already discussed in the past, are former territories, former slave countries. And so all of those people, I believe, are going to be rising up in 23 and beyond. But personally, for me, what was impactful for me this year, and I think was impactful to the community that I tend to advocate for, is the busing of immigrants from Texas and other places to places like here in Illinois, Chicago, and New York, and other places like that. So immigration reform is always going to be one of the things that I think is big money, because the United States makes a lot of money off of these immigrants.
How?
The immigrants put in money, and they use the money. You know what I mean? So I think those three stories collectively are really important stories that people should be talking about and have been talking about.
Well, I was asking you how, because, Americans, at least when we see the Black and brown immigrants, we look at them as a drain on the society. instead of looking at the fact that many of these
no.
immigrants, well, I mean, you know, when you look at the indigenous
big money.
immigrants who speak Spanish, this is this is El Norte to them. So I think we need to be clear on that.
Yeah, all those detention centers.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you remember 13th. There was I guess it was a Netflix documentary that came out, number 13. And it talks about how it was a pipeline for Black people to go into prison.
Sure.
The immigrant population, even though they're not going into quote unquote prisons with crimes, they're going into prison, which are detention centers. Detention centers are actually state-run prisons. All the states make money. All the private prisons make money for housing people. All of our tax money goes into the food companies that provide them food, clothing, shelter. This is big business. Immigration enforcement is big business.
But that's why I want you to say it.
That, right. I'm with you.
Because I mean,
and I hear
Ukraine is big business. You know, we have something called in 1914. You had the Christmas truce during the First World War. The German and British troops refused to shoot each other on Christmas. They came out and they basically surrendered to each other, started playing, sharing food, and the surrender, and the truce lasted day after day after day into January. But the military-industrial complex, their commanders and the heads of state became worried. They were like, no, they need to fight. This is what happened.
Yeah.
And then they had to start killing each other.
Then there's no one buying the guns.
Okay, that's why I had to ask you. Anastasia,
let's be honest.
Okay.
I talked about it with you a while ago about the Merchant of Death being released and people not seeing that as something that they needed to pause and be conflicted about. But if he's an arms dealer, he's selling weapons.
Wait a minute.
Of destruction.
He's part of the. That means he's part of the government. He's part of the government because that's what they do.
Right.
That's what they do.
Why else would Russia want him back? So,
well, no, and wait a minute. And why were we not willing?
Reform, immigration enforcement, all of that is big business.
And we were willing to trade
that come
him.
Here that are released, that get parole, that get temporary protected status. All of them
But
contribute to the economics of the United States.
That's right. But let it not be lost. Victor Boot was in Marion, Illinois, and he's in the munitions business, and that is a borderless business, quite frankly. So he did business with us. He did business with everybody. And we just need to be clear that war is big business and it has no borders, tragically. Let me go to you. Tragically. Attorney Darrell Jones. Big stories.
Good morning, Santita. I tell you, there's so many stories to choose from. I would tend to stay there in the state of Georgia. And I think that one of them would have to be the overcoming of all the odds and voter suppression that was put on the young voters and voters of color there that just came out in record numbers in compressed circumstances in the midterm runoff election to cast their ballots. But, that's rivaled, I think, with Brunswick, Georgia, because folks got to remember it was 2022 is the first time the state of Georgia ever invoked, convicted, and sentenced for the federal hate crime statute and the death of Ahmaud Arbery. That was 2022. And it was a Black foreperson, people may remember, that was in tears, given the verdict of that federal jury. That's got to be one of the top stories. And, and I would say that is right up there with the appointment of Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court. So all of those, to me, are many of the top stories. And of course, dealing with the Supreme Court, overturning Roe versus Wade, that too would be right there, Santita.
Whiplash. Just this year, Aaron. It seems like everything happened this year.
Well, and everything around the world. So I want to talk about the women of Iran for a minute. I think many of us have held space, including on this show, for that revolution that's taking place in Iran. As someone who has been lucky to know Iranians living in America and throughout the world and experience the beautiful culture that they have, to see those people rise up, particularly the women, and take back pieces of their freedom and country, I think is a story that we need to speak more about on the global scale. Daryl mentioned this a little bit, but I think our Supreme Court in general is making headlines more than it ever has, and is at risk of becoming so politicized that we no longer trust it. We look at the leak around Roe versus Wade. We look at that decision. We look at also the impact that we're seeing, the full impact of Citizens United now, and some of these previous decisions that were controversial. And we see the leadership of the Roberts Court and what that legacy is really going to be. And that's extremely troubling with the new allegations of impropriety by Justice Thomas, Alito, and some others. And locally, I also want to mention, for me, I live in Highwood, Illinois, which is right next to Highland Park. And we still see gun violence, not only in communities like Highland Park on the 4th of July, but in cities across the country, in rural communities that have the highest gun violence and murder rates in the United States, throughout the South, throughout the Plain States. And gun violence continues to be a huge, huge issue, not only for our young people looking at this at schools, but that is a big statistic that changed this year. Young people are more likely to be killed by a gun than in any other way. Car accidents, illness, anything. Weapons are the most dangerous thing for our children, and that is a new thing this year.
Dwight McKee, your thoughts? So much happened this year.
Yeah, it was quite a year. I think probably the Ukraine, the implications in the Ukraine, because the implications for the starvation of Africa, if that issue is not solved, since they're kind of the breadbasket of that hemisphere, and its implications to long-range NATO plans, and it's the impact it has on inflation. You know, they keep pumping money in, and I think people get confused. They think the money goes to the Ukraine, but the money actually goes to the American arms dealers, because they use the money to buy arms. And who do they buy arms from but the American arms manufacturers? So it's kind of a ruse, you know, and people get upset about it because they say, well, why would we give $80 billion to the Ukrainians? Well, that's really not what's happening. What's happening is we are reinvesting the tax money we have into the arms dealers in America who makes these guns and these bombs. And so I think probably the Ukraine, and first and secondly, the fact that the Democrats was able to maintain control of the Senate, I think that's going to have long-range implications to be able to keep us in the game, because I think that if the Republicans would have taken over both the House and the Senate, I think it would have been curtains for us, and they would have taken us back 50, 60, 70 years if they could. I think those are the major stories we have. And I think lastly, the change in the weather. I think weather is going to be a major, major, major crisis for the next 10, 15 years until we resolve how we're going to deal with, you know, that crisis. I think we're going to go from this these kind of winters to treacherous summers that are, 10, 15 degrees stronger than we've seen before, or hotter than we've seen before. And I think it's going to have a devastating impact on the climate and the economy.
And Anastasia, before we go to break, indeed, they're saying that weather is a real driver of forced migrations of people. It will shift populations all around the world. I mean, how do you think, what are our vulnerabilities in terms of our immigration system in the United States? I'm just very quickly, got about a minute.
Well, we're in a holiday season. I know you don't like to reference it but that's really what happens. And America basically shuts down for a 2-week period. During that 2-week period, that's when you get an influx of people crossing the border because there's no one there to protect the border. They're on vacation. So between Hanukkah and Christmas, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, people are just not at work. And then you also have what federal government has, which is called a user leave time. If you don't use the time that you were given, you're going to lose that time. And so a lot of people decide they want to take their vacations at this time, thereby bringing down the workforce and opening up an opportunity for people to migrate to the United States. So basically, this is the next 2 weeks. There's a whole bunch of people about to arrive in the United States that we don't know about.
And where will they have papers? What's going to happen?
No, they're going to come in illegally. The people that come in legally, we know who they are. The people that come in illegally, we're not going to know who they are. They'll start popping up and you'll start seeing them all over the United States. Obviously, they come in where they come in. Some come in through Canada, some come in through Mexico. Some come by boat, but most of them come during the holidays because there's less people to apprehend them.
Wow. I think
I know.
One of the things that we've got to look at is American mischief and a lot of the interfering that we're doing in these countries that push people out. People are not running to America as much as they are running away from home because of dire conditions that we and our government and our corporations have helped to create. And I think we've got to be very honest about
Absolutely.
that.
They assassinated the president of Haiti in 2021. Yes. There has been no election, and the entire Port-au-Prince area has about 95 gangs out of the 200 in the country that are shutting down the capital city of Haiti. People cannot go to work. People cannot get gas. People are being kidnapped. There is no stability of life for the majority of the people that are living in Port-au-Prince, which is the majority of the country. So when you think about why they would even want to get on a boat and head to Florida, that's why. Because if I want to just do good and work, I might have to do what we call break a law someplace else. But if I break a law someplace else, I might be safer, which isn't necessarily guaranteed because we have gangs here. We have violence here. All of the same things that exist in that country exist in this country, but we have protections that are in place that they don't have.
Well, you look at what's happening with our brothers and sisters from South and Central America. It's the same thing. Venezuela, we want their oil. we want their product. And they have held fast and they said, no.
He has resources in which they're being destabilized intentionally in order to obtain those resources.
And this is what's driving a lot of when you see this massive wave of immigrants coming here, well, they're being driven here. So we'll be talking about more of these big stories of 2022. And what do you see in 2023? Call me at 773-763-9278. And hey, January 26th, we're kicking it off on WCPT, the mayoral debate right here on WCPT. Back in just a minute. Okay, everybody, you all can talk amongst yourselves. We are on Facebook Live right now. So you got immigration, you got Georgia. Thank you for bringing up Ketanji Brown Jackson, Attorney Jones, and SCOTUS, because no one trusts them. I mean, what are the implications of that, Attorney Jones? Daryl, when you don't trust the Supreme Court. Now, mind you, to me, a lot of this, that gave us Brown versus the Board of Education decision, right? Also gave us Plessy v. Ferguson, but then it was overturned. What does it mean for us to be looking sideways at Clarence Thomas, at least some of us? And then Justice Roberts, and then Justice Alito, because now we're finding out how they hang out, going to all these parties, which is your option, but parties with people helping them to shape their opinions. But what does that mean, Daryl?
Yeah, it's
Attorney Fancher's on the line.
Tenuous ground to stand on, in my opinion, because we like to think that we hold those that are justices on the Supreme Court to such a high ethical standard, such a high moral standard, that we don't mind listening to what they say. We may not agree, but because we know they're doing what they believe to be in the best interest of the country because of the practice and all the precedent and everything that has grown, that's the imagery that we like to have of Supreme Court justices. But when we start questioning their integrity and we start seeing decisions that are coming out that are inconsistent with the position of a majority of Americans, it begins to destabilize and certainly start to call into question the integrity of that system. And the scary part of it is that, the Supreme Court is supposed to be the gold standard in our third prong of government, right, in the judiciary branch of government. But when you start realizing that the emperor doesn't have clothes and that starts flowing downhill, it goes from the Supreme Court all the way down to our state level courts. And it has that impact of just questioning their integrity. That's the potential that this has. And that, to me, is what makes, all the decisions that Aaron was talking about, not just the Dobbs decision, but all the decisions that Aaron was mentioning, so huge for 2022 is the potential impact that it will have across our country as it, reverberates throughout the country with regards to its decisions, its impact. And as we often say, and you hear me say it a lot, you have a majority Supreme Court that was appointed by presidents that did not receive a majority of the popular vote. So they really represent a minority of the interest of the people of the country, and that's scary.
Oh, CK, what about oversight of the Supreme Court? I mean, no one checks them.
When we talk, Santita, about oversight, we talk about accountability. What accountability, if any, do the U.S. Supreme Court justices have for their actions? For any perception of conflict of interest, for cases that the justices we believe should recuse themselves of, but they decide to go forward with it. For Clarence Thomas, Justice Alito, and others, continuous, I think, misdeeds in terms of what I believe their misdeeds are surrounding the fact that they should not hear certain cases because they have a conflict, or they have engaged in activities, or their spouses have engaged in activities, in the case of Justice Thomas, that put into question the integrity of the court. So oversight of the U.S. Supreme Court is very slim to non-existent. There might be some oversight technically on the books, but it's not the same type of oversight that other judges, even federal judges, because these are appointments for life, even other federal judges have. So the canon of ethics, professionalism, all of the things that we as lawyers are governed by and we can lose our license over, these things don't really apply to the U.S. Supreme Court. So it's troubling when you have what many people feel are abuses of ethics, abuses of professionalism, abuses of the canons that govern and should govern the U.S. Supreme Court. So that's really problematic, Santita. And I don't want to go back to Georgia too much, but in terms of the U.S. Supreme Court, I would submit that Georgia facilitated Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson because of the victory of John Ossoff and Senator John Ossoff and Senator Raphael Warnock the first time. That gave us the majority in the Senate. That facilitated her confirmation, even with all of the drama that surrounded and impropriety in some respects that surrounded it. So I hate to go back to Georgia, but
you don't have to. I mean, look, I'm asking for everybody in their lived experiences. We all are looking at this through the prism of our own experiences. Anastasia is going to talk to you about immigrants, and I appreciate that. But she can talk to you about other things. You're sitting in Georgia. This was an international story, CK. I'm saying don't apologize for it.
It is, but my prism is not just Georgia. My prism, in fact, in life has been everything but a domestic sort of localized story.
But this isn't local.
Politics had become national politics, had become inner politics. What happened in Georgia
had as much impact in the U.S. as it did abroad, because it's going to impact every single thing that we do. The fact of the victories in Georgia. What happened, as Daryl mentioned, the Ahmaud Arbery case,
We're back in 1 minute.
national ramifications and implications, people marching around the world. What happened in Georgia, this little last situation with Herschel Walker and Senator Raphael Warnock winning, had implications certainly for the U.S. Senate, but throughout the world, because people watch this as you have Black men in this country pitted against each other and because it spoke to what is happening in this country, the division in this country, and the division manifesting itself through Black folks.
Do you know, and honestly, that's why I'm saying to you, the Chicago race is going to be a national story next year. That's just, and we're going to be all wrapped up in it. Because you have got Lori Lightfoot, first Black woman to be the mayor of the city, who will in all likelihood be facing off against Chuy Garcia, who could become the first Hispanic mayor of this city, who also has deep ties in the Black community. This is going to be a lot.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to Old Chicago, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station in cold Minneapolis, St. Paul. AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It is cold. Oh my gosh. Please stay warm, everybody. Please stay warm. Go to warming centers. If you are at home and you don't have heat, do not turn on that stove and try and get heat. A lot of people get burned out of their homes and they die that way. If you do not have heat, go to a warming center. That's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. If you must go outside, get in your car and go somewhere, even though you've been warned not to do that. Please have blankets. Have that which can keep you warm, that can keep each part of your body from exposure to the cold. It takes 10 minutes to get frostbite. That's right, just 10 minutes. It does not take long at all, even if you are in your car. But if you don't have heat, you got a problem. So everybody, please stay warm. Please, 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 please stay safe. We're talking about the top stories of the year. What are they for you? I mean, Shapiro, you said it's the McMichael's convictions in the Ahmaud Arbery case. Going to ask you about that, Attorney Daryl Jones, because of course you and Attorney Barbara Arnwine were on top of that case. There's so much that happened. So much that happened this year. I mean, it's like, how do you choose? But pull them up. I want to hear from the panel. Just, they gave us some of their stories, but I know there's so many more. They might even react to some of what they heard other panelists say. But I want to hear from you at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. And what do you foresee for 2023? What's going to happen? Do you think it's going to be as exciting a year? Do you think it's going to be even more exciting? Call me at 773-763-WCPT. 820. Let's get to some of these headlines. In Chicago, we'll have a high of 2 degrees. It'll be cloudy. It'll feel like it's 7 below zero. However, in Minneapolis, St. Paul, the high will be 1 degree above zero, but it will feel like 11 degrees below zero. Please be careful. In the NFL, the Jaguars bested the Jets last night, 19-3. In the NBA, the Bulls will be playing the Knicks tonight, and the Timberwolves will be playing the Celtics. In the NHL, the Blue Jackets will be here in Chicago, and the Sharks, well, they were triumphant over the Wild, 5-2, 40-degree drop in an hour in Denver. Such is the weather in the United States of America, and the massive winter storm that is battering the United States is hitting major cities at a time when millions of Americans are trying to fly to be with their loved ones for the holiday. What's going to happen, everybody? Nearly 3,000 flights within, into, or out of the United States have already been canceled today, according to flight tracking site FlightAware, according to this CNN report. Cancellations are highest at New York's LaGuardia Airport, in Detroit, Seattle, Chicago, Denver, and Boston, according to data. Everybody, please be careful. I'm thanking the Lord that my baby sister Jackie got home. It It took her a while. She was delayed for hours trying to get back in to be with us for the holidays. The House Select Committee investigating the January 6, 2021 insurrection recommends barring former President Donald Trump from holding office again. What do you think about that? I can't wait to hear Dwight McKee's thoughts on that. Do you think that will hold? Because he's already running for president. He's already running. Everybody's been laughing about these NFT cards, but they did sell out. Russian President Vladimir Putin said the quiet part out loud. He labeled fighting in Ukraine a war for the first known time in public, deviating from his carefully crafted description of Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. And those are just some of the headlines. Well, migrants at the U.S.-Mexico border are struggling to find shelter. If they don't have the proper papers, Attorney Sanat, they're turned away from official shelters. Wow. So you have a lot of people on the streets and they shouldn't be. Remember, this is the Christmas season, everybody. It's the Christmas season. Jesus was shut out of the inn, put in a barn. Think about that. And Attorney Sanat, it's not that I don't like holiday season. I just think one of the things that we've done in this time is that we've secularized Christmas. And that for me, as someone who's religious, is offensive. I remember as a child, we used to even get a story or two on television about baby Jesus and the circumstances under which he was born. I miss that. And I think that if you miss that about
it's important that we share our religious
but I said that at the top of my show.
We should take offense
Hold on.
people that want to do it.
No. I hear you, but I said that at the top of the show. No one should be offended by anyone's religious tradition. But secularizing this, which is a religious holiday, for me is problematic. And I stand on that. That having been said, that's why I handle it this way. While I acknowledge, I was raised to acknowledge every other tradition, because every other tradition has something to teach you. That having been said, for me, it's not just happy holidays. Like when I made Christmas cards as a child, my mother would not allow me to put Xmas. She said, no, we know what Christmas is about. This is Christ, the Mass of Christ. Don't you ever do that. And so the admonition that my mother gave me was quite strong, and it stayed with me. If you can call it PTSD. But that's kind of where I am it's where I am. And I make no apologies as I acknowledge Hanukkah, as I acknowledge all of these holidays in this holy season, but I know what the reason for the season is. And I think that we need to get back to that. I think it would help everybody. I really, really do. So everybody call me at 773-763-9278. What do you think is the big story, or are the big stories of the year? Let's not forget Ketanji Brown Jackson, first Black woman on the Supreme Court, and she has already made quite a difference. She has had a stellar performance, and she has really been above board ethically, in stark contrast to the other African American on the court, Clarence Thomas. So let's talk. We're welcoming, of course, we have Dwight McKee, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, Attorney Darrell Jones, Attorney Anastasia Sanat, Attorney Aaron Connolly, but we have also got Attorney Mark Fancher who's with us. Attorney Mark Fancher, hey, how you doing? Welcome.
Oh, I'm doing
welcome home.
Fine. Good morning.
Well, tell me, what's the big story or stories this year in a couple of minutes?
Well, I as an African born in America, I recognize that if I limit myself and my perspective to what happens in this country, then I am perpetually a minority. So I like to think of myself as part of something much bigger, part of an African world, and part of an oppressed international world. And in that respect, I think that while there are so many things that are going on that cause us to be discouraged, there's also a lot to make us very inspired. We have witnessed over the past year great developments in Central and South America in terms of their continuing revolutionary path that they're taking. Gustavo Petro in Colombia, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva in Brazil, when Biden tried to exclude Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela from the Summit of the Americas. Much of the region stood in solidarity with them against the United States. We see that at the World Cup, Free Palestine, the movement for that was clearly in evident. And even though in Africa, There is so much that's happening that's neo-colonial in nature, so much that is very bourgeois and not revolutionary. We at least see developments that show that there's a growing awareness of the significance and the importance of imperialist military intervention on that continent and resistance to it. And even with the conflict that existed, the war really that raged between Ethiopia and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, the African Union, which leaves much to be desired, nevertheless was instrumental in negotiating a peace treaty that creates conditions for more serious political movement that tends to unite the continent rather than divide it. So there's much to be encouraged about if we see ourselves as part of that part of the world, as opposed to limiting ourselves to the Democratic Party, Republican Party paradigm in a game that we can never win. United with oppressed humanity around the world, we are a force to be reckoned with. And I think that oppressed humanity around the world is on the march, it's on the move. And before you know it, the imperialist and capitalist forces will be crushed.
Everybody, what do you think? Call us at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. Was the big story of the year, was it national? Was it domestic? Was it international? Was it all of the above? Fania said, Ketanji Brown Jackson overturning Roe v. Wade and Georgia. Chaparral says the McMichaels, of course, the Arbery case. What about the Arbery case? Why did that strike us with such ferocity, Attorney Jones?
You know, Santita, I think that the Arbery case struck us for a number of reasons. I think that one of the reasons was we had this just completely innocent young man, right? Ahmaud Arbery, he's 25, who had done nothing wrong, had invoked anyone. I mean, you could not get, a sweeter lamb in a sweeter situation than Ahmaud Arbery, who was out for a jog. And, what then happens with the three white male vigilantes that chase him down, that corner him, that kill him? And it's witnessed by the video that's shot by William Roddy Bryan, who's one of the three. And it's something about watching that video that just really brought it to life for everyone about the innocence that was in the anger. And I guess it's the mixture of the innocence and the hatred that these three men had for this young black man for no other reason than he was young, black, in their neighborhood. So to see the state of Georgia, in a rural area in Georgia with a predominantly white jury and the black male juror that was a foreperson, convict these three men of that for the first time in Georgia's history, to use the federal hate crime statute and have that conviction and have them sentenced to life in prison again. I think that's what connected with so many people, because they realized it could have been anyone's brother, anyone's son, any young black male could have been Ahmaud Arbery. And I think that was the connection that people felt. They just knew that we needed to have some justice. There had to be some closure. We couldn't allow this to continue to happen to our young black folk in this country. I think that was the connection that was there, Santita.
Hey, let me go to Howard from Los Angeles. Howard, what's on your mind today? Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
All right. Happy New Year, too. It's been a long time for me. But okay, quickly, I've been having a problem getting you guys. It's been a problem trying to stream your station out here for the past week or so, and I really miss it. But I really want to talk about maybe, it's been a problem.
Well, have you tried us on YouTube? Have you tried us on YouTube or my Facebook page, Santita Jackson and Friends?
No, I haven't tried. Actually, try me on TuneIn.
Okay, well, you know what? Always try, WCPT.com, AM950radio.com, but join us over on YouTube. We have a lot of fun.
Okay, I'll try that.
Okay, sweetie.
I'll figure it out. I'm a baby boomer, so I gotta get my kids to help me out.
It's all right. You'll be all right.
I know, but what I really want to talk about the NFL You had all that brutal weather back here. They're going to play games tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Is that cruel and unusual punishment? I think the Players Association should address that. That just goes to prove that the NFL is the plantation. They're going to play regardless,
Even
and
in dangerous conditions.
There's very dangerous conditions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out here in California. We play football all year long. Even in rain, rain. I can understand rain. But when you get past the Rockies, wow. We're looking at that stuff, but, I think the Players Association should address that issue because that's not right, being out there in those buildings like that, below zero weather. And all the clothes in the world, they can help you. Like Lou Rawls said in his album back in the day, about Chicago and things, the Hawk and everything. So I think they should address that. I hope somebody listening to me that's in the Players Association will address that in a meeting. So that's very important to me. I said, how can you play in that kind of weather? And out here in California, they have stipulations for high school kids can't practice in the summer because of the heat.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a very important.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. You're right. You're right. Thank you for that. And may God bless you in this holy season.
Yeah, they can postpone it. They can back it up for a while and postpone the game till the weather gets more.
Of course they could.
Warmer, whatever.
Of course they could. These people are so greedy, Howard. It's terrible.
Well, they don't care. You're right. They don't care. They're not there. They're not Jerry Jones and all the other owners. They're in their box seats watching the game. He's walking around in a three-piece suit, decked out. He's watching players out there, going through the motions, getting hurt. He don't care.
Well, you know what? I won't.
They don't care.
Well, let me say this. I won't go that far, but I will say this because I think, some of them do care and some of them don't. I mean, and that, unfortunately, that happens. I think what we've got to look at is just fair working conditions. Because think about it, our railway workers, for all of, for all that they have been through this year, they still do not have paid leave. I think there's a fundamental disrespect that we have for working people. I think it's offensive to publicize the salaries of these professional athletes and not publicize the profits personally of the owners. You know what I mean? They act like these athletes are just taking all this money. We're paying these players. Oh no, but the owners are reaping billions, and their children and their children's children will get the same because they own the teams. Think about that, everybody. I've got Linear Bob who what'd you say, sweetie, before you go?
Hello?
Yeah, before you go.
Oh, I was just going to say that, I lost my thought. But, if they're able to pay these guys all that money, think about like you said, think about what the owners are making.
That's right.
Big multi-million contract. What are they making? They're making trillions of dollars.
Well, they're making billions.
We pay that.
They're making billions, and therefore the people who generate the money for them should get a piece of that. And so I hear you. I agree with that. And they should have safe working conditions. Linear Bob, I only have a few minutes for you, but sweetie, I wanted to hear your voice before the holidays went on. And I want to know because you're with us every day. What do you think? What do you think is the big story or are the big stories of the year? You got a couple of minutes.
Well, I would say one of the biggest stories is actually one that's been a slow motion thing going for several years. Dr. Nancy McLean wrote a book about it. The title of the book is Democracy in Chains. And this is how the oligarchy and the rich authoritarians want to rule everything and essentially force, everybody else to become like serfs. We're almost going back to 800 AD with castles with very wealthy people living in them, surrounded by hundreds or thousands of straw and mud huts with people like us and like people like I see now, literally living on the sides of freeways by the off ramps in tents. And that's happening. The homelessness is happening in huge numbers around the country. But look at what happens to a homeless person. Can they vote? They don't have an address. So then how can they register to vote? How can they even be represented? The answer is not. I think it's a long-term, slow crushing of middle class and working class people who will literally not have a voice and not have, because they don't have a place. I'm seeing that, and Dr. Wolf has talked about this. He's been on the program several times, and he's talked about this. We've had and we've talked about the political thing. You had Greg Palast talking about the disenfranchisement of people by the thousands. The challenged voting thing. It's all part of this same big picture of taking away democracy from the average people and being it just a small few that dictate to everyone else what's going to happen in this country and actually in the whole world. It's not a one-story thing, but I see this like icebergs running into each other.
Well, I mean, the class issue, Dwight, the key. I've got about a minute before we go to break. What about that? I mean, because that's like the dirty little word that we don't want to mention in the United States of America. We've racialized classism, but classism is real here. Dwight McKee.
Oh, this country is based on classism, and it only gets more exacerbated as the rich get richer and the poor gets poorer. I'm glad to see that some of the new politicians, i.e. the new mayor of California, is taking the homeless issue heads on, because what is happening is that these corporations are buying up people's houses or putting these people's houses in foreclosure and then raising the rent at such a level is that the average person really can't afford to pay rent and can't afford to buy a house. And so they are becoming even what we call the middle class. Many of them becoming homeless. If you go down to the north side, in many places, it's beginning to look like Tent City, like they had when Dr. King had the poor people's campaign. People who a couple of years ago had housing, many of them, some being middle class white, now live in tents. And so, class is a major, major, major problem, and will be until the people unite and take a position against these corporations and these politicians that are strategically taking their homes from them and elevating the rent in such a way that they can no longer afford it.
Well, when we get back, let's talk about the role that corporations play in our lives. What is the role? I mean, what about the Christmas truce, which we talked about this week? It was held during the First World War. Great Britain and Germany refused to shoot each other. And the truce lasted day after day after day after day until the military commanders and the government officials said, hey, we need you to fight. What's going on? Think about that. Call us at 773-763-9278. Thank you, Linear Bob. I'm sending you much love.
Well, thank you. And the Christmas truce is that same big, I guess you'd say, authoritarian oligarchy that wants other people to die.
Oh,
so
everybody
I'm with
but
you
them.
about wanting a Christmas. I'm with you about wanting a Christmas truce. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I want that, and we should have one. But it's amazing who broke it up. Which I want the panel to weigh in on. It's amazing who broke up the Christmas truce. It was not the soldiers. It was their commanders, commanded by the heads of, not just Hitler, the heads of the nations, all of them.
And the army, the arms makers, and the military-industrial complex behind them.
That's right. The military-industrial complex said, you all have to start fighting again. What are you doing? Sharing food? Using your helmets as soccer balls? Wait, no.
And singing Christmas carols together.
There you go. Mary Bob, I'm gonna have to let you go because I don't have enough lines, but you know I love you. You know I had to get you in.
I know. Thank you, and have a good morning and the start of another good new year.
Oh, God bless you, sweetie. Can't wait to be with you in the new year. I mean, what about that? Thank you, sweetie. Bye-bye.
Oh, thank you. Bye.
Everybody, and Mark Fancher, what about that? The Christmas truce held until these folks said, "You need to start fighting again. What you doing?"
Yeah, I mean it's a manifestation of imperialist and capitalist greed and total lack of concern about the sanctity of life, and a willingness to do anything and everything and to sacrifice human beings for the sake of profits and world domination. It's Satan on earth.
It is Satan on earth. Whew. Well, I'm going to ask you all about the Christmas truce when we get back, because and Dwight, I want you to take the lead on that, because that is a story that really moved you this week.
Okay.
Santita, did I not hear that there was some kind of truce in Russia and Ukraine for a little while? Not necessarily the same level of the Christmas truce, but wasn't there a little bit of truce between Russia and Ukrainian soldiers where they weren't willing to fight each other?
I hadn't heard about that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it's a human condition, so it's a human choice, right?
Yeah, and we don't know enough about the Ukraine situation. Quite frankly, many people in Ukraine are ethnically Russian. It's a very complex situation, and we have a government that America overthrew in 2014, and the people we're seeing now are really American allies who were installed by us. So it's a mess that we created. And we need to stop. Dwight?
Many young soldiers left Russia because they refused to fight, and so they fled Russia by the thousand, because they don't subscribe to that fight. And it's been a major problem with Russia being able to recruit have new recruits. It's so many of the young men fled because they refused to fight. And
We're coming back in 15 seconds.
Families refused to let them fight. It was not unlike a lot of the young white boys fled going to Canada during Vietnam because they just refused to be part of that war.
Mm-hmm.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. You know what? It's been 4 years, if you can believe this, since we had a new mayor in Chicago. Wow. And so now we've got what is proving to be. It will be a very exciting season, and it's going to be a national campaign because everybody wants to know who will be mayor of Chicago. We had the first black woman mayor of Chicago, and many people believe that Chuy Garcia could become the first Hispanic mayor of Chicago. It is going to be a fight. What are their visions for the city? And what are the visions of all the other people running? I mean, because who knows? They could come through just like Lori Lightfoot did 4 years ago and hold on to her seat. We just don't know what's going to happen. But on January 26th, WCPT is going to help you out. Joan Esposito, Patty Vasquez, and I are going to be moderating a debate, a discussion with these candidates. That's right. some of the people that I just mentioned and others will be a part of this forum. You don't want to miss it, everybody. The WCPT Chicago Mayoral Candidates Forum. You'll hear directly from the candidates, no filter, about the direction that they want to take the city in for the next 4 years, right here on WCPT, streaming on all of our platforms. So everybody, please keep it locked. January 26th, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Let's talk about this. As we talk about the year that was and the year that we see for 2023. What about this truce? The Christmas truce of 1914 during World War I, when German and British soldiers refused to shoot each other on Christmas Day. And the truce kept on going day after day after day into January. And then the commanders were alarmed and they said, wait a minute, hold on, we need you to fight. And the commanders, of course, get their orders from the presidents and the prime ministers and the military industrial complex. That's the only reason these men started fighting each other once again. It's telling. It happened more than 100 years ago, but it's happening now. They took their helmets off and they started playing soccer with their helmets, using the helmets as balls, sharing food, singing Silent Night, Stille Nacht, the German version of Silent Night. They did all of that. And yet they were ordered to start fighting again by their governments and by the military-industrial complex. What do you think about the Christmas truce? Is that something that we could have today? Aaron Connolly.
I'm not sure if we could have it in the same way today. I have a hope for our humanity that's true. But if we look at how warfare has changed so much and what we ask our men and women in uniform to do, right? It's a completely different landscape, and the folks sometimes making those decisions are in a faraway land driving a magical robot, right? So it's not this person to person interaction anymore. So I think it's a completely changed landscape. But I hope that we can find a little more peace, and I'm hoping that the United States leadership, as we have an incoming Congress, as we have a different generation of folks coming in, that we can find some common ground about even having peace as the goal. When we look at approvals of defense budgets with little to no debate, when we look at Pentagon accountability and auditing with no accountability in many ways, we have to be leaders of our own troops in this way and take a different tact, I think. So that is my hope, that we have people and peace and love and brotherhood in a way that we saw during that time.
CK, what do you think about a Christmas truce? Would that be possible?
I think a Christmas truce would be possible, but it's not likely. I mean, it always is possible, but it's just not likely. I think that, the sides have defined the fight. They are so entrenched they can't see the forest for the trees. And it's unfortunate because, as we look at the television and look at the unfolding, war in the Ukraine and actually other wars throughout the world, we recognize that in this holiday season, many people are suffering more and more because of war. And I think, unfortunately, we're going to all pay for this in the new year, in 2023. But I don't think there's going to be a truce at all, even though that's the right thing to do. It's the human thing to do. It's the humanitarian thing to do. It's the faith-based thing to do, but I think it's unlikely.
Daryl Jones. I mean, what does it say to you that it was the commanders and the military-industrial complex who made these men resume war in 1914?
What it does to me, Santita, that if people are left to their own, oftentimes, that is the good nature that's in a person, particularly during this time of the year, that there's something that people want to do the right thing. They want to be connected. They want to love one another and respect one another and respect what each other is going through. They want folks to have the opportunity to spend time with their family, to actually live life. And it's when we have the interjection of superiors, if you will, that say, no, y'all need to get resumed to trying to kill one another because we have our interests, our country's interests, our corporate interests, that's at stake. That's what it indicates to me, that if people really had a chance to just meet one another without all the power stuff going on, power grabs going on, that I sort of think that people would pretty much try to get along. And I think that's what sort of displays to me, is that, the soldiers here, they got along and respected one another. But it's when you put the power piece into it and the war piece into it that then you get to the hate and the and that whole psyche of hate that then evolves. But I think that perhaps I'm in my own little shell here, but I think that left to your own, you're more inclined to love than to hate. That's how I see it.
I agree with that.
I concur. I think that the intellectual war that's going on impacts us in a lot of different ways, from the street all the way to the corporate offices. So I agree with you.
So I was about to shift to you. What about a Christmas truce? I mean, and I'm not just saying in Ukraine. I'm saying everywhere there is conflict. What about that? There's so many lessons that we can learn from that.
Touched on it. It's an emotional intelligence. It's human intelligence. If you're not using your mind in order to create a space that's safe for other people to live and operate, then it's going to be hectic. And if you are unwilling to reject those who are going to benefit from the chaos, right? The war, benefit from that, then you're going to give them the power. So it's up to the persons that are in those spaces in order to make those determinations. But how does that happen in a place where we're consistently educating them that they should follow orders? I mean, not to say that we're bad people, but when you're constantly telling people to follow orders and have a rank, have a command, follow the pyramid, go to the top, reach to the top, there's no one that's going to be able to make an independent decision because they're not necessarily with how they can topple things by not following that thought, if that makes any sense.
It absolutely
so
makes
I don't
sense.
see the truth coming, is what I'm saying. I don't see a truth coming. I see the benefits of it, but I don't see a truth coming.
Well, that lets you know how immature we are. Mark Fancher, Attorney Fancher, what do you think? What about a Christmas truce? I mean, what could we have learned from the last one in 1914? And they might have had others, but I think that the whole idea of peace is so threatening to those whose business is war, we wouldn't hear about it. Attorney Fancher.
Well, I'm in your club in terms of trying to make us remember that Christmas is about Christ. And what those soldiers did is to basically take the message of Christmas and to copy what Jesus would have done in that type of a situation. And I think the world would be much better off if we continued to do that, because his life really provided us with a roadmap for how to navigate a very vicious and wicked world. Jesus himself lived in an imperial situation. He lived in first century Palestine, which was occupied by a Roman Empire, which was vicious and brutal and cruel, which raped and pillaged among his community. And his response to that was to say, we have no part in that. We will withdraw completely from that. He and his followers, which immediately after his death numbered in the thousands, began to create their own separate nation. They placed everything that they had individually into a common treasury and shared as people had need. They ignored the empire. It was not part of their reality. And I think that that is the road forward for us when we're trying to deal with imperialism, because we're dealing with it on a global scale, not just in Palestine. We're dealing with an imperialism that is so vicious, so wicked, and so evil that it's willing to take thousands and thousands of young people and to arm them and to send them into conflict and to sacrifice their bodies for the sake of profit. We're dealing with a system that's so vicious that it has something that many call disaster capitalism, where they're willing to let wars rage so that entire countries can be leveled and destroyed so that their corporations, their contractors can come in and rebuild the country at a cost of trillions of dollars for their personal greed. As I said during the break, this is Satan at work on earth, and it has to be combated. And there are strategies for doing it. Huey Newton, who was the co-founder of the Black Panther Party, was decades ahead of his time and his thinking. And we have not yet come to fully appreciate his genius. We have not reached his level of political development and insight. And one of the things that he took note of is that the imperialists engage in something that he called reactionary intercommunalism, where they separate themselves from the rest of us. The major corporations pull themselves out of national boundaries, and they operate on a global basis, and they're interconnected globally so that they can exploit and dominate the world. What he called for was something that he called revolutionary intercommunalism, which is the globalization of what Jesus and his followers did, where people of goodwill, nations of goodwill, communities of goodwill withdraw from imperialism, and they unite on a global basis, and they operate separate and apart, and they defeat imperialism on a global basis. We need a truce, not that's limited to the soldiers who are used as cannon fodder in these conflicts, but we need a truce among real people, not major corporations, a truce among real people that lasts all year long and which works for global cooperation among people, working people, oppressed people who are determined to crush this great evil that we call imperialism.
Amen to that. Dwight McKee? Christmas truce. What do you think about it? And why were you so moved by that this week?
Well, a couple of reasons, Santita. I don't think we ever have a truce like that, because war used to be very personal. You had bayonets, and you was hand-to-hand combat, and you was in foxholes that were 3 or 4 and 5 feet apart, and you could hear and sing and laugh and cry and die. And so one of the reasons that the first truce came about is because the people were able to recognize the mutual humanity of each side and discover how much they had in common. A love for Christmas, a love for family, a love for Christ. And that bound them. Now war is so technological and so impersonal that with the drones and the bombs, and you really never see who you're killing. In fact, one of the reasons that they've been putting people in court martial is the people that show the other people that are getting killed. So you see real life and death. Now, if you show us that or expose that, they court martial you and put you in jail. But showing real people getting killed. And so unless it comes from the people themselves, unless they raise a ruckus and force the politicians and the generals to declare peace and declare truce, it won't come from the bottom down. It has to come from the top up. We, the people, will have to force that into the spirit of the politicians and the generals.
But we think it's impossible. What will change our minds? Dwight?
I think that minds are changing. When you look around the world, what you see is a new spirit of confrontation of the government. In Iran, you see women standing up to the government now. In China, you see Chinese students standing up now. I think that we see in Russia, you see the Russians saying study war no more. I see there's a new spirit of the common people who are trying to force peace, at least on the table. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how these regimes respond in terms of how repressive they can be.
Okay, one moment. We can hear something in the background. Okay, very good. I'm sorry. Keep on, Dwight.
But even in Venezuela, there's a spirit of the people rising up and trying to declare war, declare order on the governments.
Well, and tucked underneath that in Venezuela, they want America out of their business. I mean, it's everybody wants things to be right. Everybody wants things to be right. Call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. I think we got Chaparral. Chaparral, you wanted to call in? We were trying to reach you a little bit earlier, but what's on your mind today? You were talking about the McMichaels in the Ahmaud Arbery case, but we're also talking about this Christmas truce. Your thoughts today?
Yes, Santita, thank you so much. Listen, I do think that the McMichaels conviction was probably the biggest story of the year. But I also have some, I know they effing lying. This can be true stories too, because there are some things that happened this year that I just simply couldn't believe. And that's like paying $5 a gallon for gas. I'm like, I know they lying. I know they ain't telling me that it's $5 a gallon. It got to be $5 to fill up my whole tank. I am not paying $125 this year to fill up my car. That was one. The other one that recently happened was the price of meat. I'm paying. It's probably like the biggest story that people are not talking about, but are feeling daily. And it's like you sitting up here, you're paying $5 for lettuce, $10 for eggs for a dozen. When it used to be 47 cents. It's crazy. And this is probably like what people are saying. You know, everybody's like, oh, wages have gone up, jobs. For who? I'm trying to figure out who benefited in 2022. Because the average person did not benefit from anything. Only the corporations and the rich people and the arms dealers, that's who made it through 2022. And so I think that some of the stories that we're talking about today, and when it comes to, you know, the McMichaels, we talk to abortion, I think the story that hit everybody's pockets was inflation. So we need to definitely talk about that, Santita.
So, well, you know, inflation, it's something that, you know, I guess we're going to go out as we came in. I've got literally just under a minute for everyone here because I got to be out at 58, you guys. Let me start with you, CK, in under a minute. Well, you know, what do you foresee for 2023? What do you want to see?
What I want to see, Santita, is real cooperation, collaboration between the Republicans and the Democrats in politics. What I want to see is that people should continue to look at Georgia as an example of what could happen in the worst case scenario with voter suppression and the best case scenario when people stand up, especially young folks, say enough is enough and vote. So I hope that 2023, that we will take all of the lessons, good and bad, of 2022 and do better and be more compassionate towards each other. And it's not, for me, it's not a question of whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. For this country to move forward, they have got to work together, no matter how you slice it. So that's what I'd like to see in 2023. Because at the end of the day, the people, Chaparral made an excellent point of what we're not talking about when you go in the grocery store and have to pay 3 times, 5 times, 10 times the amount of money to buy the same food. That impacts the moral fabric, the economy, the economic empowerment, our communities more than anything else. But if we don't have people from both sides of the aisle talking to each other, we can't address that.
Well, I've got less than 30 seconds for everyone. Erin Connolly,
Well,
2023.
thank you to everyone on this panel, and thank you, Santita. And I look forward to discussing all of this with all of you in 2023. And I really, really want to see us look at the values that we're focused on with our families this week and put those into our policies more. Let's expand EITC and keep people out of poverty. Let's live those values in a way that can help people and solve some of these problems that Shapiro was talking about. We can do it, but as CK said, we have to do it together, and we have to have a sense that we are actually all in this together. It's a long game, not a short game.
You have to have the will to do it. Mark Fancher.
Well, I sign on to what was just said and ask that we use Christmas as a chance to really think about who Jesus was, what he confronted, and to pattern our lives after his. In so many ways, he purposely experienced what we experienced and showed us how to deal with it. We just need to relax, be calm, follow the roadmap, and the world will be a much better place in 2023.
I think that it can be. Daryl Jones.
Young voter power, Santita. I look forward to seeing our young voters continue to get out there and break records and get involved in our voting system and lead the way with regards to the issues that are important to them today. Young voting power is what I'm pushing for 2023, Santita.
Dwight McKee.
I co-sign. The next Christmas truce needs to be between the Democrats and the Republicans. Is that if they are in the same kind of tension, in the same kind of mode that they've been in for the last 4 years, it is only going to further exacerbate the tension between each side of the country and set us right for more destruction and tension and a potential civil war. So I think the next Christmas truce should be between them, the Democrats and the Republicans.
Anastasia Sanat. Anastasia, you still there? Well, I think, you know what? Have I missed anyone? Let me know. Let me know now. Forever hold your peace until 2023. I hope that we will see peace, love, joy, and happiness. I do believe that it's all possible. The Lord's Prayer tells us that we are but really a thought away from the life that we live on earth being as it already is in heaven. But we have to change our minds. Whatever your faith tradition is or is not, just know that this world is ours. And the reason it is in the state in which we find it is because we're not doing the work. We've got to do the work. We've got to make this world what it's supposed to be. It is a divine place and it is a gift. And I just hope that you all will have a blessed holy season. Yes, it is the Christmas season. We're supposed to learn from this boy who was turned away, who was born under the threat of death, whose parents hid him in Africa. And then he was turned away from the inn. As we're turning away the migrants, you don't have your papers. What are you doing here? So we put him in a barn where there was cow dung and all kinds of dung. But then we got the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. Think about that, everybody. Think about it. Be blessed, be blessed, be blessed. And then the government rested on his shoulders and he changed the world. You can change the world too. For all of my brothers and sisters of all faiths, I pray that the spirit of Christmas will be with you. I pray that my brothers and sisters of the Jewish faith will have a wonderful Hanukkah. And Christians everywhere have a great Christmas. And everybody have a great Christmas. And all of the holidays, all of the cultural holidays, Kwanzaa, all of them just have a great, great holy season. But remember the original reason for the season. His name was Jesus. I love everybody. God bless you. Have a great, 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 great holiday and Happy New Year. And that is it, folks. Do you all have anything you want to say to the Facebook Live audience before we go? Anybody have anything you want to say?
I have to run, but I want to thank you. What I want to tell the Facebook audience is that we applaud our magnificent host, producer, talent, extraordinary sister, brilliant, beautiful, all of the above. And thank you for a wonderful year, Santita.
Oh,
And spreading
girl,
the word.
I love you and congratulations on your television show. When can we see it?
I don't have the exact date yet, but hopefully I'll have it soon. They said the first part of 2023. So
Okay.
I'm looking at the, they're doing final editing. I'm looking at them. They look pretty good, but I don't have a basis. So I'm not effective, but they're looking good. So their planned release, it's my understanding, is the first week of January, but I don't have the exact day.
I love
Wait
it,
a minute,
love it,
Cynthia,
love
I
it.
missed this. What's the television show?
Thank
What's the
you.
television show, CK?
It's on AIB Network. I did a series of 6 legal commentary on different subjects, evergreen subjects. So that'll be released. AIB Network, based in Atlanta.
Awesome.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Yes, congratulations.
Congratulations,
I think,
and I just want to say Merry Christ Mass to everybody.
Amen.
Merry Christ Mass.
I don't skimp on that.
Amen.
I don't skimp on that, and I'm not apologizing for it. I'm not apologizing for it. No one's holiday should be offensive to anyone. The secularization of Christmas has hurt us all. Jesus is the reason for the season. Study him. I don't care what your background is. Study him and learn from him and keep it moving. I've learned from all faith traditions, and I'm better for it. I'm better for it, and we will all be better for it. Enough of the religious bigotry, no matter where it comes from and no matter against whom it is directed. Enough. This is a holy day. This is not just a secular holiday, everybody. And we should not, I don't play with that. And I'm not going to apologize for not playing with that. I am very, very serious about that. I'm a committed Christian. And I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. That having been said, I embrace all of my brothers and sisters of every faith tradition. It was a Muslim woman who named my brother Yusuf, who told my mother, hey, you want to name him Joseph? What about Yusuf? And in 1970, they said, that would be a wonderful thing. What's the problem? I don't even want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Let us grow and let us go and embrace everybody. But let us first acknowledge the season that we're in, because there are lessons here. We have people who are not being housed right now, just like Jesus. We have people who are living under empires, just like Jesus. We have leaders who are being snuffed out, just like Jesus. We can just keep on going down the line. We need to grow up in our politics, and we need to grow spiritually and embrace the gifts that are before us. And in this season, that gift is Jesus. Learn from him, everybody. Treat Jesus as an historical figure if you cannot embrace him as a spiritual guide. You'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot. I love you, everybody. God bless you, and have a marvelous, marvelous holy season, and have a great new year. Happy 60th anniversary to my mom and dad. Can you believe it? Dwight, can you believe that? Yeah. 60 years. They married December 31st, 1962. And as my father said, we've been together 61 years. So good on them. God bless them. And I just thank God that they have been able to endure. I thank God for that. I thank God for that. And I thank God for all of you, my morning stars. You're part of my heart. And I just want you to know how much I love all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for embracing me. Thank you for the love. I can't say it enough. Thank you for the love. Thank you for keeping me company through the pandemic and just every day. Thank you. Thank you. I'm humbled to be a part of your life and your lives. And I want you to know you honor me by being a part of mine. I love everybody. God bless you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. For those of you who celebrate Kwanzaa, which begins the day after Christmas, God bless you. Happy Kwanzaa. For our Jewish brothers and sisters, you are in the midst of this wonderful Hanukkah season. God bless you. God bless you. And all of the holidays, may you be blessed. in this holy season. God bless you, everybody. Love you, panel. Love you, love you, love you. Merry Christmas, everybody.